See if I could just do just the facts. Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. Okay, so you have Hillary Clinton comes back in. Somehow Hillary Clinton has come back into the conversation, right? So it's, 3 years later, she still hasn't taken any responsibility or hasn't held herself to account whatsoever for her loss, right? Her entire life she's been fighting for this, and then just some pumpkin comes in. Okay, so recently, Hillary Clinton appeared to suggest that Representative Tulsi Gabbard is the favorite of the Russians to win the 2020 presidential election, as being groomed by Moscow to run as a third-party candidate against the eventual Democratic nominee. The 1980s called, and they want their foreign policy back. Hillary Clinton is using the Cold War era paranoia. The Russians are going to go against us. Since the Russians are against us, therefore, if you don't say the right things, then you're a Russian asset. You're opposed to war? Well, then you're a Russian asset. So the Cold War is such bullshit. In the free country, we're not allowed to even fathom of a different economic system. And the Vietnamese, 4 million Vietnamese people needed to die because they thought of a different economic system than what the great United States of America has. If we're such a great country and we believe in freedom, then it seems to me that we should win people over and not force them to our will. So if we're a free country, then if you want to be a communist, if you want to be a capitalist, you can be either one of those things, I would think, in a free country, right? But, Tulsi's not even communist. I mean, she's left-wing on a lot of things. So is Hillary, but they're sitting there, trying to run to the right. They're running to the right. I'm going to say a little bit more about Hillary. In an interview on the podcast Campaign HQ, the former Secretary of State warned that the Russian government is poised to once again meddle in the U.S. presidential election through online disinformation efforts and by encouraging a third-party challenger to stir chaos in the contest. The Russians have already had their eye on somebody who's currently in the Democratic primary and are grooming her to be the third-party candidate, Hillary Clinton said, referring to Gabbard. She's the favorite of the Russians. They have a bunch of sites and bots and other ways of supporting her so far, Clinton told David Plouffe, the podcast host and the campaign manager for former President Obama's 2008 campaign. And then Hillary Clinton carries on. It's not just Tulsi Gabbard, right? She doesn't like these progressives. She don't like these liberal progressives coming out. She's a neoliberal. And neoliberalism, just like neoconservatism, is the problem. Okay, so she says that's assuming Jill Stein will give it up, which she might not because she's also a Russian asset, Clinton added, referring to the 2016 Green Party presidential candidate. So fantastic. Not only did she, shit all over Tulsi Gabbard, but she's shitting all over Jill Stein. So she's going to shit all over Tulsi, shit all over Jill Stein. And who the hell, Hillary, didn't you lose to? Okay, so Tulsi Gabbard, she's going to come back and hit Hillary just, right on the chin. And this is important because when it comes to what we're doing, right? Okay, so what's the problem, right? Okay, so let's talk about Tulsi Gabbard and her response, because it kind of says what a neoliberal is. So Tulsi Gabbard was like, oh, thanks a bunch, Hillary Clinton. You are the queen of warmongers, the embodiment of corruption, the personification of the rot that has sickened the Democratic Party for so long, have finally come out from behind the curtain from the day I announced my candidacy. There's been a concerted campaign to destroy my reputation. We wondered who was behind it and why. Now we know it was always you through your proxies and powerful allies in the corporate media and war machine, afraid of the threat I pose. It's now clear that this primary is between you and me. Don't cowardly hide behind your proxies. Join the race directly. So Hillary Clinton, she's absolutely right with everything she's saying here, and she's hitting her on the chin. She sits there and says that she's the queen of warmongers. Yeah, Hillary's to the right of Donald Trump. She would have caused World War III against Russia. She's still doing this Russia shit. And then we just have a big Mueller investigation. You're going to carry that all the way to the end? I mean, that's a guaranteed. You're just talk about giving Trump a Christmas present. So neoliberalism is the genius of the Clintons, but it's also the downfall of them. So in the 90s, Bill Clinton got elected, right? Didn't have a Democrat for about, 3 terms. You had Jimmy Carter in the 70s, and then it was all Reagan in the 80s. And then you had, Papa Bush, and Papa Bush looked like he was going to, take another term. But Bill Clinton comes in there, and the genius of Bill Clinton was that he was a Republican. All the things he passed, NAFTA, the crime bill, welfare reform, these are typically right-wing ideas. Where was the universal health care? Where was the legalization of marijuana? Where was the end to war? And so the major accomplishments of Bill Clinton, he got elected because he was a Republican. And so when people were sitting there saying, who are we going to pick between this right-wing Republican or this little Republican light, they chose Republican light. He seemed to be, just like the Republicans, only a little bit nicer. And so Republican light did win in the 90s. But people are sick of it, okay? Because we actually need an opposition party. We actually need a liberal progressive party. You got two right-wing conservative parties, and the genius of the Clintons, they won the election, and that's how they think they're going to keep on winning, is by, being a Republican. So people go to the ballot boxes, and they don't look that different. The candidates are sounding the exact same. And so what are you going to go with, right? Just go with the heartstrings? Well, maybe he might be a little bit more liberal. Maybe he might be a little bit more conservative. Today, however, so the neoliberals are the Republicans. So Bill Clinton turned the Democratic Party into the Republican Party, and now the Republican Party is batshit crazy. They're off the charts. They're off the spectrum. So the, genius, I keep saying genius because it's also the downfall. So they pretended to be a Republican. They got elected. And now we see how that has, essentially destroyed the country. We didn't get our universal health care under the Clintons. When it comes to poverty, still poverty all over the place, police brutality. And so there's many issues that aren't being addressed because we don't have a liberal progressive party. We don't have a liberal progressive people that when they have welfare reform, they're not, Clinton cut welfare. Welfare, should be expanded. Social Security should be expanded. And then the crime bill, they're throwing more people in prison. Well, what about the police brutality? Anything on them? And then NAFTA, free trade. These are all, Republican ideas. They were Republican through and through. So when Tulsi points out that she's the queen of warmongers when it comes to Ukraine, when it comes to Libya, when it comes to Honduras. Ukraine, I think there's justification. Honduras were just coup d'etat governments for the right-wing capitalist ideal. And then, you got Elizabeth Warren out there saying she's capitalist. So all these people are just rushing to, act like they're the Republicans. They're the conservatives. Why don't we have balance? We don't seem to have any kind of balance whatsoever. You can't be partially socialist and partially capitalist. And it seems to me that's the obvious. The saying with communism and capitalism is that capitalism, this is Martin Luther King, he says capitalism forgets the community, whereas communism forgets the individual. So why can't we care about both? Care about the individual and the community. There's also conservatives are, they think with their brain, whereas liberals think with their heart. Well, why don't we need both of those? We need a heart and we need a brain. So we need balance. We need balance between all these, different, just all these different sort of economic systems and liberal conservative ideologies. So now let's go to Jill Stein. Jill Stein is going to, before all this came down, she was talking about, congratulations to the Green Party of Poland on electing their first 3 members of Parliament. The Party for People, Planet, and Peace has grown globally. So she was just, happy that the Green Party of Poland was, had elected 3 members of Parliament. She was happy about that. So good for Poland on that. So that's, the kind of stuff that she was tweeting up until Hillary Clinton started running her mouth. And since, she was the last candidate and she still has some influence, how come... Okay, so Jill Stein says, in the latest slanderous allegations from Hillary Clinton, I challenge her to a debate. It's past time to give the American people the real debate they deserved in 2016, but were denied by the phony DNC-RNC-controlled Commission on Presidential Debates. This is a retweet of Glenn Greenwald, who said Hillary strongly implies that Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset who will act to serve the Kremlin's interest, and also said there's no doubt Jill Stein is. Does she have evidence for these grave accusations? Of course not. None is needed in the Democratic Party discourse. It's gutter trash. Well, then I want to say he says something later on. It's kind of like that Vince guy, right? Who is that one guy that the Republicans keep saying that Hillary had killed, right? Oh, she keeps having all these people killed. Well, she likes to say it's the Republican propaganda machine and that, they're just throwing out allegations without any evidence. Well, what did she just do? Dr. Jill Stein, it's a shame HRC is peddling conspiracy theories to justify her failure instead of reflecting on real reasons Dems lost in 2016. You can slander progressives as Russian assets, but you can't hide the fact that the DNC sabotaged Bernie Sanders and elevated Donald Trump to set the stage for HRC. So Hillary's assertion that Jill Stein is a Russian asset is a craven, debunked lie. Anyone who's inconvenient to the Democratic Party is now being surreptitiously controlled by Russia. That's the deranged political climate we're in. Congrats to all who helped foster it. So then you have Dr. Jill Stein. HRC's rant is Exhibit A for how the establishment is using the new Cold War to crack down on dissent and feed the war machine instead of addressing the crises working people face. They're painting progressives as the enemy. It's like they're trying to lose to Trump all over again. Jill Stein, one more time, if Hillary Rodham Clinton really believes all independent campaigns are Russian plots, why isn't she calling for ranked choice voting to make it impossible for evil foreigners to split the vote? Until she does, all this Russia hysteria just looks like cynical McCarthyist left punching. And that's exactly what it is. It's McCarthyism. And how come she doesn't push for ranked choice voting? Ranked choice voting, Jill Stein tried to do this. I want to say Massachusetts is where she lives. I think some New England state. She went to their legislature, told the Democrats, Republicans, let's get ranked choice voting. Turns out the two-party system don't want a fair election. They want to laugh at the third parties. Oh, they don't stand a chance, stupid third parties. Why would they even try, dumb third parties? Ha 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 ha. And that's such, just elitist arrogance. It's fucking bullshit because it means we don't have a fair democracy. If you truly believe that third parties have no chance of winning the election, this America where, all dreams are possible, but you're telling me that a third party don't have a chance. It used to be Federalists and Whigs. So there's a day when there was no Republicans and no Democrats. It was all Federalists and it was all Whigs. But those parties were dissolved. Those parties went goodbye. And so third parties have been successful. In fact, the two parties we got now are the third parties that have beaten out the old, Federalists and Whigs. So if you look at third parties and you say they don't have a chance, how come you're not worried that the democracy that we live in is broken? We live in a broken democracy. The third party don't stand a chance. How come? Why don't they stand a chance? Because they need millions of dollars. They need the big corporate media to back them. How come they don't have a chance? Because it's rigged. Because the system's rigged. And ranked choice voting gets rid of the spoiler effect, and it gives everybody a chance. And it also makes it more of a civil discourse, and it's fair. It's actually a fair election. So if you don't have ranked choice voting, then get the fuck out of my face. You don't believe in fair, elections. Now, Donald Trump is going to jump on, and he's going to act like he's on Jill Stein's side. Crooked Hillary just called the respected environmentalist and Green Party candidate Jill Stein a Russian asset. They need a Green Party more than ever after looking at the Democrats' disaster environmental program. Is he talking about the Green New Deal? I mean, they're saying, look at the Green New Deal. Or I guess they're saying, what? He's gutting the EPA, and so I don't understand what he's talking about there. But it's interesting that he's, floating the idea that the Democratic Party is out and the Green Party is in. I mean, of course he'll say shit like that because that's what the Democrats keep on saying. Well, they're just splitting the vote. And he's like, yeah, split the vote. That's what I want. So the Libertarians will, do the same thing for the Republicans. I think in our heart of hearts, we're a four-political party nation. Green, liberal, green, libertarian. So far left, far right, and then center, left, center, right, but they're actually, more to the right than that. But that's, we got four political parties in our hearts, right? Sometimes you want, a lot of love. Sometimes you need a lot of, I guess, common sense. And then sometimes you need some, more moderate positions. So George Orwell says, in a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. Deep gratitude to all who fearlessly speak truth to power in these times of widespread deceit. If war can be started by lies, maybe peace can be started by truth. Keep using your voice to make sure the truth gets out. So there we go. There we go. There's Hillary Clinton's bullshit comments and Jill Stein and Tulsi Gabbard's responses to, the neoliberal disaster that is Hillary Clinton. She is the personification of rot. They are neoliberals. They are, Republican light, and they keep on acting Republican light because they think, well, that just makes sense. We got to be relevant. We got to win elections. That's all that matters is winning elections. my problem, with the overall conversation is we don't have a liberal progressive party. You're not allowed to be a socialist or a communist. Hell, it's almost like a crime to be a liberal or a progressive, right? You're a commie, you damn commie. So, yeah, Hillary Clinton needs to step down. Joe Biden doesn't need to be reelected. He is the Hillary Clinton 2.0. He's right-wing. So these assholes, he was against integration. These assholes act like right-wing assholes, and then, they wonder why people point out their records. It's not a personal attack to point out that Joe Biden voted for the bankruptcy bill, voted for the Iraq War, the Patriot Act, just on and on. Just basically every progressive idea that Bernie has been championed, Joe Biden is on the opposite side voting, with the Republicans or with the right wing. So these assholes they think they're so goddamn smart. They think they're so fucking clever. They don't say any liberal progressive things. They're not going to get us universal health care. They're not going to end the wars. They're not going to legalize marijuana. They're not going to do any of these liberal progressive ideas that the people want. The American people would love, a liberal progressive champion, and that's the big problem in America with the two-party system. We got two corporate business parties, two right-wing corporate business parties. No working people's parties, no, party for the peasants, no party for the poor, no party for the victimized, the brutalized, of police violence, or the party of peace. Where's the party of peace? The Russians were calling Donald Trump the peace candidate. He was the peace candidate. He did finally get out of Syria. It took him fucking forever, right? I mean, it took him almost a whole year after he declared the end to the war. So the military-industrial complex has got a grip on the presidency like no other. And how come he didn't defend the Kurds? Like, Jesus Christ, I was for withdrawal, but protect the Kurds. And so, yeah, we're in 27 wars right now, 26 to go, right? 27 wars, but one down. 26 more to go. So we need to, end all these wars. 26 wars. The empire doesn't help us. For every dollar, for every bullet and missile that we spend is a dollar out of the pockets of the American people. So yeah, fuck Hillary Clinton. She's a piece of shit. And Jill Stein and Tulsi Gabbard are badasses. So I'm glad they spoke up, and I'm glad that this is actually getting some press, and Hillary Clinton does need to, even Bill Maher, who championed Hillary to the end, says that Hillary just needs to go away. She just needs to go away. Her ideas, it's all bullshit. It's her fault. She sucked. She needs to, take accountability. Hillary lost the 2016 election because Hillary was terrible. Hillary was awful. She was right-wing. She was a psychopath. She was unlikable. She didn't encourage any new voters. And essentially, it was just entitlement. I've already been, I'm next in line, so everybody just back away and let me do my thing. All right, we did, and you lost. So, let's get a progressive. Let's actually get a liberal progressive in there. Maybe a socialist. Maybe we should elect ourselves a socialist since people are so damn scared of liberal progressives. Let's just go full-blown socialist, Anyways, good on Jill Stein, good on Tulsi Gabbard. Hillary Clinton is a piece of shit. Peace.